Greetings, students. Welcome to an exciting day where we're going to talk about the roots of. All right, this is the long bit of the lecture, but I think it's really the most important one. So, esotericism, high magic, and modernity. We're really going to be talking about what is called high magic or ceremonial magic here, which is a ritual system that is very elaborate. It uses correspondences, very hermetic from Hermes, the god of correspondences and knowledge. And these people design rituals to do all sorts of things. It's very much ritual based. But the more I look at what I see in other forms of neo-paganism these days, I just see so much influence of this ceremonial magical tradition that is about 150 years old. Now, do people acknowledge that? Not really. It's a bone of contention in a lot of the Wicca communities, just how much Aleister Crowley and his organizations were influential on Wicca. In fact, Gardner knew Aleister Crowley and took initiations into Crowley's order, the OTO. I've known people who are fully initiated in Alexandrian or Gardnerian witchcraft, like all the way up to the top. They've had all their initiations and are working their ways through OTO orders, and they see them as connecting. I always saw them as being inherently different, but the more and more I think about it, the more I see a lot of overlap. Okay, so what is magic? Right from the get-go. Magic is a means to interact with superhumans in order to enact desired changes in the world. That's old. That goes back to the Greco-Roman world. The Greco-Roman world, we had all sorts of ritual spaces, elaborate spells, pantheons of deities, similar to ceremonial magic. But there are other influences. So from Islam, we find a large focus on astral magic, focusing on the stars, focusing on astral bodies being used and manipulated in magic. In Judaism, and we have some rich histories of Jewish magic, we have angels, the worship of angels and angelic pantheons, and the secret names of a unified God, also all the technology around Kabbalah. Christianity, in fact, brought the idea of a magic circle and sort of big symbols that we see now, like the pentagram. All of this is carried into ceremonial magic or high magic. We can use this term learned, and people will often call it learned magic, because this magic is, one, learned and requires learning and literacy to perform, often having the ability to read numerous languages. If you pick up, say, Aleister Crowley's classic book, 777, it's just correspondences after correspondences, and you'll see things where he will connect, English words, Hebrew words, Chinese characters. It's just, you have to have a command of a wide range of literary abilities just to be able to even think through this system. Now, there was a pause. So all of this magic I was talking about to this point leads into about 1750. Now, from 1750 to 1850, there's a little documentation. It's like people weren't really doing magic. There was tons of stuff pre-1750, but not a lot from 1750 to 1850. One of the oldest orders of magic and high magic was a group called the Rosicrucians, the Order of the Rosy Cross, or the Order of the Rose Cross. This was a pan-European mystical and magical system said to be founded by someone named Christian Rosecroix, but there's no evidence of him being an actual historical figure, but as pseudepigrapha, as something that was written by someone supposedly. People claiming to be Christian Rosencrantz. There's a lot of really interesting output. So the Rosicrucians created a graded system of initiations that was based on Freemasonry, but was explicitly magical. All of the magical and the mystical, boom, is in the forward on this. On the right, you'll see the famous Rosy Cross, which is filled with all the lore you could ever want to understand in the world. At least they would argue. So we can look at these pre-1750 documents as Western learned magic. There are spells ranging from invoking deities to creating magic carpets that fly around. Some rites are used to generate wisdom, but many are quite pragmatic. The goal is you do the ritual to have a thing happen. It is learned because, one, it must be learned from someone or from books, usually from books, and the rituals require reading and writing, often in many different languages. And generally, a grimoire from this time that's Western learned magic will have Greek and Latin, and then probably German in the main, but then also some Arabic. So you have to be able to read a wide range of languages to even make sense of this stuff. Now, the thing that really changes in 1850 is a guy named Eliphas Levi. Eliphas Levi is was a Parisian magician. He trained to be a priest and then left the priesthood. And then he began crafting the most important synthesis of magic and spirituality that the world has probably ever seen. I mean, you can argue that everything in ceremonial magic and a lot of stuff out of Wicca comes from Eliphas Levi. That was his pen name. His real name was Alphonse Louis Constant. He lived from 1810 to 1875. And in his 65 years on this earth, he really kind of changed the world when it comes to magic. Now, Levi systematized all that he could into what became known as ceremonial magic. And then Levi inspired the magical systems called the Golden Dawn and then the OTO. Aleister Crowley even claimed to be a reincarnation of Eliphas Levi. Now, this guy had some influences. So take a look here. Now, you might be used to seeing these symbols in the sense of Satanism. We'll get to the Church of Satan later. But there's no shortage of cool stuff about these symbols. They were originally, they're kind of aggressive to look at, but they're filled with so much wisdom. What do I mean by that? All right, over here, you see Baphomet. Now, Baphomet has goat head, breasts. He has the caduceus as a wand. That's probably also his penis. He's part goat. He is said to represent wisdom. Now, that wisdom would be a little bit terrifying. Wisdom should scare you a little bit. If you'll notice on his arm, solve, coagula, to dissolve and to recombine. These are alchemical terms. Now, why does he have a goat's head? Well, because Eliphas Levi and a lot of the Golden Dawn people afterwards really loved the god Pan. And they connected there's probably a notion of sheep and goats, like in Christianity, sheep for, the bleeding sheep that is a good Christian, and the goat is the one that won't be accepted by Christ. But I don't buy that. I think they saw within the goat this sort of primal lustiness, impetuousness, playful masculinity in a goat. If you spend time with goats, you can kind of see that. So this symbol of Baphomet, where do we get Baphomet? The smart money says that is a derivation of Mohammed. Mohammed. Aha. Is it Muslim? Not really. We do know that the Knights Templar, by which you can hear all sorts of nonsense about on the internet, who were an order of priests/warriors, were, when they were traveling around, they became very powerful. They made lots of money. They also did a whole bunch of weird, crazy rituals and whatnot beyond just the usual priests. This was supposedly a god they were dedicated to. Muhammad Baphomet. Baphomet is the god of the Templars. Now, what does the god represent according to Levi? The spirit of wisdom, modernity, rationality, instead of superstition. There is no sense that this god is evil or the devil. Now, look at him. Sure looks like a devil, doesn't he? Well, what came first? The horny-headed devil or the Baphomet? It's kind of hard to say. Anyway, on the right, you see the goat of Mendes with a pentagram. This one is used really commonly in modern Satanism, but this goes back once again to Levi. And what is that goat? That goat's head is wisdom. That goat's head is rationality. The goat's head is light. It's assertiveness. So there's a lot more complex ideas in here than just that these are evil symbols, even though maybe Levi is victim of his own kind of interest, that it looks evil, so people call it evil. But evil was not what Levi was into. He was into wisdom and rationality. He was into transcending static morality. He was against, you do this and you do this because of this and this. It's like, no, you come into yourself and your humanity and you act and be in the most powerful and evolved manner you can be. Eliphas Levi, big friggin' deal. Now, Eliphas Levi died, obviously, but before he died, he wrote, where's my book? I guess I don't, yeah, this book. He wrote this book that's translated Transcendental Magic. And I remember first reading it and going, what the heck is this? This doesn't look like transcendentalism. But the actual French title was Dogme et Rituel de la haute magie, the doctrine and ritual of high magic. He wrote this between 1854 and 1856. There, he set out practices invoking and deploying elements, using signs and gestures. He developed the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram that is connected with the Holy Cross and the Cross of Kabbalah. It's a practice I've done for years, in which you open your body and self up and invoke these powerful Jewish words or Hebrew words upon your body. Then you bring your hand forward or with a wand and you banish in 4 directions in the shape of a pentagram. And then you conjure forth 4 guardian angels. What is it? I can't remember right now. I'll put a video up of it. Yeah. But yeah, it's Michael, Uriel. Yeah, I can't, my brain's off this morning. Anyway, so yeah, so he set out the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which is a big deal in pretty much every ceremonial magic tradition in the past, or and now. So pentagram, devil cord. And one of the cool things about Levi was, at the time, there was not a lot of magic going on. He created a countercultural magic, a type of magic that was resistant to the contemporary culture of the time. In a sense, it's almost like he was our first countercultural magician. And in that sense, it does sort of make sense that Crowley would claim that he was the reincarnation of Levi. All right, let's take a little break here, and I'll come back and talk about the Golden Dawn.